Now we move into the deployment reference architecture here. Okay, first one is a widely used in current ICT environment from current on-premises compute instance to public cloud. So I call this one called 3-tier with ISCP, IaaS centric plus a business as usual requirement. ISCP means to say instance and the security compartment placement. So in terms of solution requirement, to comply with the predefined and the regulated ICP deployment requirement, including compute instance, security segmentation, and the managed services to maintain 24/7 ICT SLA requirement. So in this environment, in terms of compute instance, have a web tier, application tier, and a DB tier. In terms of management requirement, have a gateway utility tiers, integration tier, and the tenant management tier. Deploying in availability zone 1 and availability zone 2. For the web tier, also called landing zone area, we are protected by FortiGate next generation firewall. And concurrently, there's one pair of a FortiWeb WAF web application firewall as a reverse proxy to protect web application instance requirement. So typically, all the government sectors and the payment gateway need this FortiWeb WAF as a reverse proxy to protect web application instance. After that, the traffic will pass through FortiADC NLB to protect web server here. After the traffic get identified and legit to go to application tiers, we have one more pair of FortiGate next generation firewall to perform deep packet inspection. After that, we'll pass the FortiADC network or server load balancer to work with a pool of application server. Last one, the traffic will come to the DB services here. Typically, in public cloud requirement, the new synergy will bring out. I saw quite a lot government agency will move into the database as a services. At the right-hand side, gateway utility tier will allow the managed services team to come to this GUT tier to manage all the instance under the managed services team. After that, there's an integration tier can work with your on-premises AD authentication, leverage on Azure Active Directory. Then the most important one also have a tenant management tier. On top of it, we will deploy FortiSIEM collector, FortiAnalyzer, FortiManagers as a highlight earlier. Within the command center at the customer premises, we have a secure SD-WAN to connect this public cloud. Also have a FortiSIEM solution to ensure security and incident event management requirement to avoid any zero-day attack here. From end user itself, very straightforward. Just deploy one pair of FortiGate SD-WAN solution. It allows the IPsec secure tunnel to access internet and MPLS circuit, both in availability zone 1 and availability zone 2. So in terms of Fortinet solution, you can see here's a FortiGate in HA for SD-WAN to DC branches. FortiGate in HA for north-south traffic protection here. The one, FortiWeb app, FortiADC NLB, FortiManager, FortiAnalyzer, and the FortiSIEM. For this kind of deployment, within 3 months, the project can be complete within the cloud infra team without any issue, especially in Southeast Asia, typically kind of a deployment about 50 compute instance only for production, DEP, and the UAT. At the same time, once a go live, availability zone 2 earlier using for the development can become a hot DR exercise requirement. Second, So most instances in the market called hub and spoke with a VPC and a VNet peering. Earlier, we also highlight what's a hub and a spoke. So we'll form once a VNet or VPC called secure hub tiers VNet here. From the left-hand side, you can see from secure when access typically is MPLS circuit to landing this start web tier. Concurrently, we call this a tiers with one pair of ingress and egress firewall component, include 40K next generation firewall, 40 web WAF, 40 ADC, and a server load balancer or network load balancer. On top, we also have a 40 SIEN collector for it. Since this solution also target for public users access, we also create one hub or VNet to allow the public traffic through this ingress and egress spoke to here. Once the traffic hit into the hub here, one pair of a 40K firewall will perform and act as a deep packet inspection here to screw through all the traffic and the packet within the hub tiers. Concurrently, we also have one pair of 40 SIEN to collect all the security log here. After that, we'll travel to the different hub in the back end, like say workflow or DB's VNet. Management tiers VNet to host 40 manager, 40 analyzer, and the 40 SIEN threat detection tiers. As I highlighted earlier, these are considered new synergy. So typically, governments, CIO and the CTO, they want to adopt a new solution. They will move into, like say, Kafka data streamings, software as services, content as a services in a public cloud. We also can do the integration with the new synergy component here. So we can see here is a hub and the spot deployment instead of a 3-tier web app and a DB tier. VPC VNet peering approach to cater for further function and the compute instance growth. So in terms of hub and the spot kind of deployment, consider a limited, yeah. In terms of to work with workload from the end user requirement, and also can to plan the right approach and integrate it with external software as services, IaaS, PaaS, and the multi-cloud access, like say Kafka, Microsoft CRM, and the content management. So in terms of total solution, which is similar with a 3-tiers deployment, but we put into in the hub and the spoke kind of deployment accordingly. So one of the central banks function in the public cloud. Recently, we deployed for one of the government agencies in a nearby country. They want to leverage on public cloud to speed out the go-to-market. Yeah. After that, they would need a secure telecom internet with the SD-WAN appliance here, with the IPsec VPN enable. Yeah. And also need this circuit redundancy to achieve high availability and cut down the NRC cost. This solution also need a PCI DSS audit requirement. So in terms of PCI DSS requirement, as I highlighted earlier, we also have a 40 web. Yeah, as a reverse proxy deployment here. In terms of total solution, similar like the earlier two slides, 40K. Okay. And 40 manager, 40 analyzer, 40 sandbox for zero-day attack detection also. Okay, this one is a more interesting one. So after the COVID, regionals, quite a number of government agencies, they have come out this welfare and a job matching scheme to deploy in a public cloud. So in terms of security landing zone here, you can see here to connect application and the workload deploy on AWS and its own data center here. So secure landing zone to connect SD-WAN branches to AWS. After that, security landing zone to filter north-south traffic to and from VPC here. Okay, then north-south traffic from AWS to data center also available. north-south traffic from internet to welfare publish application in the AWS here. In terms of Fortinet total solution, FortiGate in active deployment for SD-WAN and the DC to branches. FortiGate in active passive for north-south traffic protection. FortiManager and the FortiAnalyzer as a one total package here. Okay, this one also consider very interesting ones. So-called government 5G and the IoT smart nation billing system. So this solution need to secure both on-premises customer data center, also on the cloud on AWS. Similar with the earlier one, they also deploy FortiGate, FortiDDoS, FortiClient, FortiADC, FortiSandbox, FortiManager, and the FortiSIEM in this total solution here. Okay, so talking about data sovereignty, this one really is a serious topic here. So at the first car, I will recommend the Azure State and the Azure Cloud solution in as a one-piece solutions with a FortiGate total package here. At the right-hand side, you can see the Azure data center within this region. Hopefully, soon will happen in your in-country's facility here. So typically, two availability zone, AZ1 and AZ2. Two instances are deployed across two availability zones. In Azure region can achieve 99.99 system uptime. And the left-hand side is a recommended solution from Microsoft, leverage on Azure's Stack. Yeah, it's a considered private cloud solution, but within this Azure Stack and the Azure Cloud mechanism can form hybrid cloud solution for you. So within this Azure Stack, we also have to deploy a similar solution. Let's say FortiGate, SD-WAN solution, next generation firewall function here. Within the for Azure Stack itself, deploy FortiManager, FortiSandbox, FortiAnalyzer, FortiSIEM, FortiAuthenticator for the end user as a 2FA, and the important one also have a FortiClient to allow remote access to IPsec VPN here. Regarding the popular SAP HANA's deployment in the public cloud, we also have a similar solution for it. First one, secures the network access. We leverage on FortiGate next generation firewall. After that, leverage on FortiADC with WAF enable features. For all the SAP deployment, reverse proxy is a compulsory. On top, we also have a FortiManager and the FortiAnalyzer as a one-stop management tool and the reporting functions here. In terms of sizing reference, as I highlighted earlier, I list down some for sizing reference for public sector in public cloud. Here's include FortiGate SD-WAN, FortiGate next generation firewall VN in public cloud, FortiADC load balancer here. Yeah, FortiWeb as a web application firewall, WAF. Also, most of the time deployed in reverse proxy. FortiCWP, okay, those CIO and the CTO need a new synergy to deploy a cloud native microservices. We strongly recommended leverage on FortiCWP to protect your computer instance in Kubernetes and the containers environment. Item 6, FortiManager, as I highlighted earlier, is manage and monitor with deep visibility. FortiAnalyzer, incident detection and the response. So in terms of SAP HANA's simplified reference, in terms of sizing, I also list down here for your reference. For example, how to achieve 200 SAP's user. In terms of FortiGate, FortiADC, FortiManager, what's the sizing requirement? Here's for your reference first. Okay, so in terms of FortiGate's VN instance, Strongly recommended using 40K VN04, VN08, and the VN16 here. Yeah, just for your first card reference. Then in terms of the IaaS compute resource requirement from Azure, I also list down here. Typically, we'll leverage on F4S V2, F8S V2, F16 V2. So the difference is the number of CPU resource, number of memory resource, and the disk allocation resource. The important one also have a network interface cards difference. Okay, as I highlighted earlier, quite a number of public cloud, they go for infrastructure as code. I just show you one page about what's a Terraform have to deploy in the public cloud. From here, you can see zone 1 and zone 2. Zone 1 means this instance will deploy in the availability zone 1. Okay, zone 2 means availability zone 2. In terms of this VN size, as I highlighted earlier, standard F4S subscribe from this Azure public cloud here. Okay, this is a very straightforward and simplified deployment. If you want to have some deep dive session, I can come back to you to look into the source code in GitHub. So this is a summary and the next step. So after this session, you'll also get aware and some moving factor. First one, what's the government cloud sovereignty, which you have to take into consideration? Data sovereignty, operation sovereignty, and the software sovereignty. Where your data center should be hosted. In all the G Cloud should host your in-country's data center. What's how to make this operational efficiency within the G Cloud? I think you also have to think about your current ICT and the ISO process. The third one also very important in terms of softwares. Because certain softwares, because the location and the region concern may not able to deploy in your in-country G Cloud environment. For example, SharePoint and some of Middle East software. Yeah, and for example, Google, certain software not able to deploy in certain country. And the Huawei component also not able to deploy in certain country because of some so-called trade conflict each other. So I think this part you really have to look into it. Second, in terms of cloud management services, how to ensure the secure cloud build and a secure operation. So today we only very focused on the public cloud itself. How about the public cloud connect to endpoint devices for this urban deployment related to endpoint in terms of IoT, 5G connectivity, even the end user computing requirement? This part also have to think is clearly how to deploy and support it in order to achieve 24/7 SLA's requirement. Then the third one is how to achieve zero trust access. Discover and identity. Know every user that track your network. This one very important. Since some of the so-called G Cloud also open to the so-called government ICT contractor, how to protect in between the government staff and the contractor also very, very important. So the who was the concept, so-called WOG, who of governments, this kind of zero trust access control really have to think about in deep. Yeah. And the last one is protect asset on and off the network. Yeah, this one I'm sure is very important. Typically, we're talking about network segmentation, security segmentation, and application segmentation. The first one, how to protect the asset for who was a package related to your network, security, application, and the data. It's a very, very key topic. You should really have to look into it. Then the last one, which we can help you, adaptive cloud security, how to secure cloud platform, which I already addressed in the earlier slide. Cloud application, and the network segmentation into the cloud, within the cloud, across the cloud. So if you have time and a chance to make an appointment with us, we already arrange a CBC Customer Briefing Center for you. It's a well-prepared cloud security environment to help you to walk through the cloud journey and the best practice to achieve end-state deployment in public cloud environment. Thank you.